Welcome to Actors Are Born. There are talents that shine with a dazzling light, and others that guard a more intimate, tormented, almost painful flame. Talents that do not explode, but reveal themselves, showing the cracks of the soul with disarming sincerity. Today, we tell the story of one of these talents, an actor who changed the face of Hollywood with his sensitivity, and whose life has been called the longest suicide in film history, Montgomery Cliff.
Born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1920, Edward Montgomery Cliff was not like the others. Raised in a wealthy family with a top-tier European education, he was fluent in French and German and possessed a vast culture. This refinement contrasted with the rough environment of his hometown, the same that gave birth to Marlon Brando. And just like Brando and James Dean, Monty would become one of Hollywood's rebels, but his was a silent, inner rebellion. He didn't show off his restlessness, he let it show through his magnetic and tormented gaze.
He debuted on Broadway at only 13, emerging for the intensity with which he immersed himself in his characters. When he arrived in Hollywood, he did so on his own terms, refusing the studio's long-term contract system, a bold move for the time. He wanted to choose his roles, to seek out complex characters, wounded souls in whom he could see himself.
Success was almost immediate. His acting was different, modern, based on the method from the actor's studio. He brought a new kind of hero to the screen, introverted, vulnerable, who appealed to both women and men. One of his most iconic roles came in 1951 with A Place in the Sun, directed by George Stevens, alongside a very young and beautiful Elizabeth Taylor. Cliff plays George Eastman, an ambitious young man of humble origins, who becomes involved with a factory worker, Alice. But when he enters the world of high society and falls in love with the rich and beautiful Angela Vickers, Taylor, his place in the sun seems within reach. But Alice becomes pregnant, turning the American dream into an impending tragedy. Cliff's performance is masterful in showing the inner struggle of a man torn between desire and desperation, a performance that earned him an Oscar nomination.
On the set of A Place in the Sun, one of Hollywood's deepest and most enduring friendships was born, that between Montgomery Cliff and Elizabeth Taylor. She, just 17, was struck by his talent and his mysterious beauty. He found in her a soulmate, a trusted ally in a world that often misunderstood him. 2 years later, in 1953, Cliff delivered another memorable performance in From Here to Eternity. Set on a military base in Hawaii on the eve of the attack on Pearl Harbor, the film tells the story of the bugler, Private Robert Pruitt. A former boxer, he refuses to fight again after blinding an opponent, and for this, he suffers all sorts of abuse from his superiors. Cliff is the personification of silent resistance, a man who clings to his integrity against a system that wants to break him. His performance earned him another Oscar nomination.
On May 12, 1956, Montgomery Cliff's life changed forever. Leaving a party at Elizabeth Taylor's house, his car crashed into a telephone pole. It was Elizabeth who first came to his aid, saving his life by pulling his teeth out of his throat to keep him from choking. The accident disfigured his face, once of almost angelic beauty, with multiple fractures to his jaw and nose. This event was a brutal turning point. A long and painful process of facial reconstruction began, but the deepest scars were the invisible ones. To combat chronic pain, Cliff became addicted to alcohol and painkillers, spiraling into self-destruction.
Despite everything, Cliff continued to act. But his face and his acting had changed.
The pain he once suggested with his gaze was now etched on his skin. His performances became even more fragile, tormented, and incredibly powerful. A film that perfectly embodies this period is the gothic and disturbing Suddenly Last Summer from 1959, where he once again stars alongside his friend Elizabeth Taylor and Katharine Hepburn. Clift plays Dr. Kugrovitz, a brilliant neurosurgeon to whom a wealthy widow, Violet Venable, Hepburn, offers funds for his psychiatric hospital in exchange for a lobotomy on her niece, Katharine Taylor. The girl is considered insane after witnessing the traumatic death of her cousin, Sebastian. Dr. Kugrovich's task will be to uncover the truth buried in Katharine's mind, a truth that will prove to be shocking and terrible.
The making of the film was a real ordeal for Clift. His health was precarious, he struggled to remember his lines, and he suffered harsh treatment from the director and producer. It was thanks to the loyalty of Elizabeth Taylor and Katharine Hepburn that he was able to complete his role. It is said that Taylor, disgusted by the way Clift had been treated, spat in the director's face at the end of filming.
Another emblematic example is The Misfits from 1961, written by Arthur Miller and directed by John Huston. Often called a cursed film and a sublime swan song, it tells the story of a group of outsiders. A divorced and sensitive woman, Marilyn Monroe, connects with an aging cowboy, Clark Gable, and a fragile rodeo champion, Clift. Together they go hunting for wild horses, but the brutality of the endeavor will bring out their inner wounds. Clift, in the role of Perce Howland, is heartbreaking. In a memorable scene speaking on the phone with his mother, he improvises a reference to his broken jaw, merging fiction with his tragic reality. The Misfits is sadly famous for being the last film for both Clark Gable, who died shortly after filming ended, and Marilyn Monroe. Clift himself would die a few years later, making the viewing of the film a melancholy elegy for an entire era of Hollywood.
In his final years, his health deteriorated drastically. His struggle with addiction and depression was aggravated by the difficulty of living his homosexuality in a puritanical and homophobic America. He died of a heart attack on July 23, 1966, at only 45 years old. The story of Montgomery Clift is one of immense talent and profound fragility. He turned down iconic roles like those in Sunset Boulevard and On the Waterfront to remain true to himself. He was not just a victim of his tragic fate, but a pioneer. With his introspective acting, he paved the way for a new generation of actors, proving that an interpreter's true strength lies not in perfection, but in the authenticity of their own wounds. He was a born actor, whose art was inseparable from his tormented soul, and for that, unforgettable.
Thank you for being with us at Actors Are Born. See you next episode for another journey into the heart of great cinema.